Joining me now to discuss is Virginia Congressman Bob Good. Congressman, thank you. I guess you drew the short straw today, sir. The GOP voting out Jordan as Speaker nominee in a secret ballot. This after questions swirled regarding a note that Jordan was holding after a closed-door GOP meeting. The note appeared to say, "What is the real reason?" Congressman, I just outlined several reasons why milquetoast Republicans oppose constitutional conservatism returning to the Speaker's chair. What have they told you? Why did they do it? Why do they oppose Jordan?
Well, they never really made that case, and your monologue, Chris, was excellent, by the way. I agree with every point that you made. But they really never gave a reason because they knew that their constituents, the grassroots voters, the Republican base, was against what they were doing and was for Jim Jordan. And frankly, the country lost today. The American people lost today. Republican voters lost today. Conservatives lost today. Freedom-loving Americans lost today with the defeat of Jim Jordan. The swamp struck back, quite frankly, and defeated him in a secret ballot by Republicans. And, you know, the point that you're making, I used an analogy in our conference meeting about a week ago, speaking to the other 220 Republicans. And I said, we talk a lot about team unity, and we try to compare it to being part of a team. And I said, the problem, to your point, is the Democrats are united with an objective, an agenda to transform, they would say, I would say, destroy America. They're even willing to lose elections to do it because they know if they lose power temporarily, the pendulum will switch back. And after we've done nothing to reverse the harm they've done, they will advance the ball even more. On the other hand, here's how the Republican Party works. They measure success that if your team has more people wearing your jersey than the other team has, that means you're winning. If you've got more people on your, they'll take anybody on the team as long as you'll wear the jersey and cheer no matter what the team does. So the team can punt on first down, it can fumble, it can throw interceptions, it can refuse to come out of the locker room. But as long as you've got more people wearing your jersey and cheering no matter what the team does, they think that's winning. The Democrats don't play that way, and that's why the American people continue to lose.
That's a great analogy. And see, and you took me right where I wanted to go, Congressman, because, you know, it's great to talk about rah-rah team, yay, Republicans, but lost in that conversation are we the people, correct?
That's right. And the Democrats understand that the majority is a tool to win. We just want to have the majority. And as long as we can have the majority, and as long as we can be in Congress and have the gavels and, you know, be in the majority, we think that's winning. And we don't recognize that the majority is a tool entrusted by us to the American people to win for them.
Yep. Congressman, take this back to your caucus if they ever want to talk to you again, and just say, we voters measure Republican success by how well they stop the harm the Democrats are doing to our people. Speaking of which, Joe Biden addressing the nation last night, requesting funding for what he says is vital to fund America's national security needs. Take a listen.
I'm going to send to Congress an urgent budget request to fund America's national security needs, to support our critical partners, including Israel and Ukraine. It's a smart investment that's going to pay dividends for American security for generations.
He's requesting emergency funding from Congress, Israel, Ukraine, $60 billion. Look, no funding can get done as long as there's no speaker. How worried are you that the moderates in your party, sir, will use this call by Joe Biden as an excuse? Oh, we've got to defect and go over to the Democrat side to maintain national security. How big a concern is that, sir?
Well, concerned that they would want to do that, no question about it. And to think that we would want to borrow, we don't have the money, obviously, borrow $100 billion for ill-defined foreign aid. You know, we're going to try to conflate the Israeli conflict, the widespread support we have for Israel, you know, for $10 billion with $90 billion for things that, you know, certainly are not widely supported by the Republican conference. And frankly, even the $10 billion for Israel, we ought to offset that with spending cuts when you're running a $200 billion deficit. But the good news is, as we turn the page, and the reality is we must turn the page and try to find the most conservative candidate that can get the 217 votes. It's going to be a battle. We start back again on Monday. We should be staying through the weekend, by the way. And you may know this, but some Republicans already left town. Some Republicans already left town and didn't even vote this afternoon afternoon for or against Jim Jordan on the floor, let alone in the conference. And we didn't get a directive. We were begging the conference to put out the message yesterday that we might have votes this weekend. We should have been voting and working through the weekend to select our speaker. It's egregious that we're not going to be back in town until Monday as we leave this evening, go back to our districts. But yes, we must turn the page, and we have to work to start over to try to find the best conservative that we can get that gets to 217. And while none of us can choose a speaker, and it won't be who I would have thought was the perfect speaker, but any 5 of us can block a speaker, and we're not going to let a moderate compromise. We're not going to let someone who represents the establishment swamp become the speaker. So my hope is that we will get someone who represents the grassroots conservatives and will be a fighter and be a leader. And the good news, take courage with this and take hope with this. We had the first ever national election for a speaker. The first time where the American people were involved, making their voices heard. Instead of us just anointing the next man up and having a coronation, we did have a contest. We did lose this battle, but we can win the war if we pick a good speaker going forward.
Well, Congressman, first off, tell the next speaker or tell your leadership they really ought to get rid of this Democrat standard and work ethic. I mean, when there's work to be done, going on vacation and going home, stop being Democrats in your work ethic. That's number one. And number two, keep us posted, sir. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time here on the Salcedo Show. Congressman Bob Good. Straight ahead, everybody, the Friday edition of the Chris Salcedo Show, an alarming uptick in attacks targeting U.S. forces abroad, but Biden fails to make any mention of this.